Hello, worldwide internet. My name is Jesse Spivak, and this is
Danielle Starmelino.
We are here from New Visions, and today we want to talk a little bit about setting up groups in a Google Apps for Education domain. So this is the first of what will hopefully be many little how-to hangouts that we're going to be putting on air. We're part of a systems team at New Visions. And we're doing work around spreading school systems across schools, and these are some of the things that we think all schools, all educators across the country can benefit from. So with that, Danielle, could you maybe tell us a little bit about the difference between a domain group and a domain organizational unit?
That's a really good question, Jesse. Yeah, so when a Google Apps for Education domain is set up, one of the things that we're recommending that our schools do is to create a series of organizational units on the domain. And organizational units are used to determine which groups of users have access to certain services. So one of the things we're recommending is creating a staff and a student organizational unit so that if you want to turn on Google Plus and Google Chat and Google Hangouts for your staff, but not for your students, you can make those distinctions. A domain group, on the other hand, is a lot like an organizational unit in the sense that you're putting certain users in certain categories, but really the group is just used as a distribution list. So it's a single email address for a group of people. And it's a really convenient way of getting, of making it easier for staff and people in your school building to communicate with the people that they contact the most.
So if I'm a principal of a high school, should I set up a science teacher organizational unit?
You don't know. A science teacher group would be great as a distribution group, as a domain group. But you don't necessarily need it as an organizational unit because they're getting the same access to services as most of the other staff members in your school.
So what would be an example of an organizational unit that I should have?
Staff.
So staff, okay.
Yes.
So I'm still maybe a little hesitant to jump into domain groups and domain organizational units. What, like, in one or two sentences, what's the benefit that I get from setting up a group on my domain?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
So, like I said, groups are a really convenient way of giving people easy access to the people that they contact the most. So, I'm an ELA teacher, and I quickly want to shoot off an email or share a document with my entire ELA team colleagues. I have the ability to do that now through a single email address instead of having to create a personal contact list or type in everybody's name individually.
Awesome. So is this like a really hard thing to set up, or?
It's super easy.
How much does it cost?
It's totally free.
Okay. So why don't we transition and actually maybe we'll put our screen up and actually show you how to set up a group within your domain. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay. So where do we go from here?
We found that.
Okay.
No.
So
Yeah.
Great. So the first thing we need to do is go to our admin console, which is admin.google.com, and we're going to log in very quickly, and we're going to log in very quickly. Great.
Success.
Success. Now, there's something to be aware of. There's two versions of the admin console. The admin console is where you control all the settings in your domain, and it's very, very, very confusing. This is the new version of the admin console. So if you're new to Google Apps, this is probably what you will see. If your domain has been set up in the past, a while ago, you will have a different view, but the settings are more or less the same. So if I want to set up a group, I'm going to go under groups. And here you can see this domain actually already has several groups set up. But if I want to add a group, I'm going to click on Create a Group. I'm going to put the group name in, so maybe this is support staff. And I'm going to give them an email address, supportstaff@upd.org. I'm going to give them a description. These are all instructional support staff members. Then this is where things get really exciting and interesting. You can decide exactly what kind of group this is going to be. Is this a team where anyone can post, or is this something that's going to be announcement only? So a lot of schools that we work with set up a staff account, an all staff account that's announcement only, and that means that only the owner of that group can post to that entire list. And you can imagine, right, like that you don't necessarily want everyone in the entire school to be able to send an email out to all staff very easily. Otherwise, you get a lot of emails like, I need a bathroom break, or can someone fix the copy machine? And we can just keep those out of everybody's inbox. But in this case, probably for support staff, you would conceive that there would be lots of uses where the support staff team would want to email each other. So we're going to keep this as a team. A nice option is to add all users in this domain to the group. So if this is something like a staff email, you can do that. A staff group, you can do that. But in this case, we're not. We're going to create the group. Just takes a second to load. And then we can start adding our users. So I can quickly start typing in email addresses, and they come up, and I can separate them by commas. And we can add our entire support staff to the group. We can designate some of them as members or owners. As a team, it doesn't make such a big difference that I'm aware of. Danielle, maybe correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I think in the team, I don't actually know.
Cool. So
you know what though? We can Google it.
We can Google it, and I can see on our counter there's actually 300,000 people watching this right now. So maybe one of you could just put into the comments as a challenge what the difference is between an owner and member on a team group. So anyway, keep it as member for now. We're going to add these folks. And now whenever I'm in the UPD domain and I start typing in support staff to my email, to a calendar event, to a share on a drive, these two people will be shared. So very, very exciting stuff. I don't know, Danielle, is there anything else that you think we need to know about groups that we haven't talked about yet?
I think one of the most useful features of domain groups is that most people think that they're just for email, but actually when you're in Drive and you're sharing documents, you can actually use groups when you're sharing a document, which is super useful.
Why would I do that instead of just like sharing test 1 and test 2 individually?
Because it's easier and it takes less time.
And I think another piece is that unfortunately, schools have lots of turnover sometimes, and instead of having to individually manage each document and who's shared on it, we could do this via group. And so if this is the English curriculum folder, we can just put the English team on that folder. And anytime a new person comes into the group, instead of sharing them on 50 million documents in the English teacher folder, we can just add them to the group and then they automatically get shared.
Yeah. Another quick tip to know about groups is that you can actually make, when you're adding members to a group, you can add a group to a group, right? So you can have this whole sort of scenario of like nested groups, right? So you can make your staff group, right, the owner of the student group, right? So maybe you want all of your staff members to be able to post and share with all students in the school, and that's something that you could very easily do in the admin console.
You're blowing my mind. Seems like the sky's the limit when it comes to domain groups and organizational units.
Yeah.
So we hope that you enjoyed our broadcast. There are going to be many more of these. Next week, what do we have up, Danielle?
Next week, I think we're going to be talking about the awesomeness of Google Sites and how they can be implemented in a school to sort of organize resources and quick links for faculty and for staff in the form of a staff intranet. So I think our colleague Jared is going to kick us off next week, and I'm stoked for it.
Yeah, so tune in. Just again, this is Jesse Spivak and Danielle Scarmelino. We're from New Visions for Public Schools, part of the systems team, and this is the Cloud Lab Hangout broadcast on air.
Yes.
Google Tips.
Can I ask a question?
Who said that?
Sorry, it's me. I'm hanging out. This is Andrew. I also work at New Visions. Just had some additional thoughts that I thought maybe worth contributing at the end here. One best practice that I think is really important with groups is making everyone in the school aware of what groups exist. It's oftentimes folks will spend a lot of energy setting up. Say it again?
But then people might use the groups.
That's right. There's a danger that they might actually use them. So I always like to keep a spreadsheet and that's shared with everybody, and if possible, that's either linked or connected to maybe a staff website, which we're talking about next week.
Nice plug, Andrew. Nice plug.
Yeah, so where you can see the list of all groups in the school, so you can remind yourself really easily which groups you can use. I also think if you have department groups, making them teams is really important, because if you want someone from a different department to reach out to the whole English department, they're not going to be on the English department group, right? So the team setting is really kind of the default setting that works really well on domains. So I recommend not making your groups restricted for all the collaboration groups in your school, leaving them a little more open.
Thank you for that tip, Andrew.
You bet.
So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you all next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Nice job.